Good afternoon once again. So, I was requested by Elder Tess that I'm able to take the two presentation of today. So I want to do a simple study. And the study that I'm going to do today in this first class is to try and answer one question. And the question that we're going to answer, that who are the prophets? After I've answered the question, we'll answer the next question. What is the job function, or what is the role or the job function of these prophets? So the first question that we're going to ask ourselves is, who are these prophets? So after I've answered the question, the next question that we'll be asking yourself, what is this role or the job function of these prophets? So let's start with question number 1, who are the prophets? So let's go to the familiar verse, and it's the book of Amos. So let's go to the book of Amos, chapter number 3. Amos 3 and verse number 7. And the Bible reads, surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. So what the Lord is saying, there are these secrets, but these secrets are going to be revealed to which people? The prophets. But remember, our question is to try and prove who are these prophets. So if you go to the book of Amos chapter number 3 and verse number 7, God is saying that his secrets is going to reveal his secrets unto the prophets. Now before we understand who are these prophets at the end of the world, let's try and understand the context of that verse. Or to try and understand the ministry of Amos. So let's go back to the book of verse number 7. Sorry. Okay, so before we go to verse number 7, let's start reading from verse number 1. The book of Amos, chapter number 3, and verse number 1. And I will read. It says, hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family, which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying. So if you go to the book of Amos chapter number 1, there are two people that God is going to introduce. The first person is God himself. And the second people, the Bible says you, which is Israel. So God is saying he has something against Israel. So verse number 2 is going to answer question number 1. Why is it that God is against Israel? And verse number 2, the Bible is going to say this. You only have I known of all the families of the earth. You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I'll punish you for all your iniquities. So verse number 1, God has something against Israel. But if you come to verse number 2, the thing that God has against Israel is because Israel has done what? Has committed what? Iniquities. But if you read verse number 2, God has families in plural. But God is saying, of all these families, God has known only one family, and this family is Israel. So the thing that God is against Israel are the iniquities. Then verse number 3, God is going to say something. So verse number 3 is going to say, can two walk together except they be agreed? So if you read verse number 1, God and Israel, they were in agreement. But because of the iniquities, God is going to say now in verse number 3, can two walk together except they be agreed? Because if you read verse number 1, what God is saying that they have made an agreement with Israel while they were in Egypt. But that means between Egypt and where Amos is standing, Israel, which is the family of God, has gone astray and have done what? They have committed iniquities. That's why in verse number 3, God is going to say, can two walk together except they be agreed? Now when we come to verse number 4, God is going to use a parable. Verse number 4, verse number 5, and verse number 6, God is going to use a parable to try and illustrate how God was in agreement with Israel, but Israel is separated from God because of the iniquities. Now God is going to bring all this scenario of verse number 1 to verse number 3 using the parable. Verse number 4, verse number 5, and verse number 6. And this is the parable, verse number 4. So God is saying, will a lion roar in the forest? So God is saying, will a lion roar in the forest? Then he's going to say, when he has no prey. So God is saying, will a lion roar in the forest when there is no prey? So that is the question that God is asking. Then the Bible is going to repeat itself saying, will a young lion cry out of his den if he has taken nothing? So if a young lion crying out of the den when he has nothing. Okay, so this question that God is asking is on the negative side, because the Bible is saying, will a lion roar in the forest when there is no prey? So that means a lion cannot roar when there is no prey. But remember, before you answer verse number 4, the two people that are being spoken there is God himself and Israel. That God and Israel that entered into an agreement. But now Israel has gone against God by committing iniquities. Okay, so if this is verse number 3. Sorry, verse number 4. So, lion roaring out of the forest when there is no prey. So the Bible is going to repeat itself and enlarge, saying a young lion crying out of the den, having nothing. So you can see this is equal to this. So you see lion is equal to young lion. Roar is equal to crying out. forest is equal to a den. No prey is equal to has nothing. Are we seeing all the repeat and enlarge? So that means a lion cannot roar when there is a prey. So a lion only roar if there is no prey. So if you go to verse number 1, God is roaring, is being likened by a lion because what Israel has committed iniquities. God cannot cry out to Israel if Israel has not committed iniquity. So God is against Israel because of the iniquities. And this is going to be likened by a lion roaring. So a lion cannot roar if there is no prey. So God is going to use now another parable in verse number 5. And he's going to say, can a bird fall in a snare upon the earth? Can a bird fall in a snare, a trap that is, upon the earth, when there is no gain, where no gain is for him? Where no gain. G-I-N. What is gain? Is for him. Now God here has brought the scenario, a parable of a lion. No, verse number 5 is going to bring a parable of a bird. That a bird cannot fall into a snare if there is no gain on an earth. And all this is trying to illustrate that God has nothing with Israel if they are not committing iniquities. But God has something to speak because Israel is committing iniquity. And this is going to be likened by a bird. Now if now jump to verse number 6, God is going to use another parable of a trumpet. And he's going to say, shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? So verse number 6 is going to use a parable of a trumpet. That can a trumpet be blown upon the city and the people not get afraid? So you know the question is on the negative side. If a trumpet blows, the people in the city have to do what? They have to be afraid. Because the trumpet is giving a sound. And which is this sound? It's going to be repeated. Shall there be evil in a city and the Lord has not done it? So the parable of a lion, a bird, and a trumpet, God is trying to use them to illustrate the relationship between Israel and God himself. That God entered into agreement with the Israelites. But God is against Israel because they have committed iniquity. And because Israel has committed iniquity, God is going to roar. And now it's going to be, everything is going to be summed up in verse number 7. And God is going to say, surely the Lord will do nothing, but revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophet. So this is verse number 7. So God is going to reveal his secrets upon who? Upon his servants the prophets. Why? God had entered into agreement with Israel, but in between Egypt and where Amos is standing, Israel have done what? Has committed iniquities. So God is going to use his prophets to bring a warning message, which is being likened in verse number 6. Verse number 6, a trumpet being blown upon the city. And when a trumpet is being blown upon the city, the people need to be afraid. Why? Because God is speaking. Now, we want to try and understand who are these prophets. So let's try and understand where Amos is standing. Remember, our question, even as I started, we are trying to understand or to answer this question: who are these prophets? And we have gone to the book of Amos chapter number 3 and verse number 7, where God is saying, for surely God will do nothing except he reveal his secrets upon the prophets. And I'm making a claim that these secrets is the judgment. So before God brings judgment, he's going to send his prophets to warn his people of the evil that is coming. So let's go to the book of Amos chapter number 1 and verse number 1. To try and understand where is Amos standing in his ministry. Amos 1:1. The Bible reads, the words of Amos, who was among the headmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. So Amos is going to be shown a vision when who is ruling in Judah? Uzziah, king of who? King of Judah. But also the Bible continues saying, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. Now who is this Jeroboam? Is the king of the northern kingdom. And this is not Jeroboam 1. This is Jeroboam 2. So Amos is going to do his ministry while Uzziah, the king of Judah, is ruling the southern kingdom. While Jeroboam 2 is ruling the northern kingdom. So Amos is standing here. But remember, our question is to answer who are these prophets. So I want to go to another passage to try and illustrate this. So you've seen this Uzziah and this Jeroboam. Jeroboam 2. Not Jeroboam 1, because Jeroboam 1 is behind here. So hold your finger there in the book of Amos. And let's go to the book of Hosea. Hosea chapter number 1 and verse number 1. It says, the word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, the son of Beer, in the days of Uzziah. Now, which king are we seeing again? King who? Where did we see King Uzziah? In the book of Amos. So that means also Hosea is standing here. So Hosea is going to do his ministry while who is ruling in the south? King Uzziah. But the Bible continues saying, not only in the days of Uzziah, but in the days of who? Jotham. Then who? Ahaz. Then who? Hezekiah. So also Hosea is going to do his ministry in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. How many kings have we seen here? How many kings? 4 kings. But we know some movement. We know that numbers have meaning. Numbers have meaning. That Christ is the pulmonary, the number of the secrets. Christ uses numbers to reveal his secrets at the end of the world. So we have the number 4. And one of the truths that the number 4 teaches us is about what? Progressive or progression, or completeness or complete. or restoration. But I want to use the rule of progression. That Amos also is standing here. God is going to use Hosea to do his ministration in while these four kings are ruling. So you see the number 4. This progressive destruction. And I'm saying progressive destruction because when you read the book of Amos, God is against Israel. Because Israel has committed what? Iniquities. And the evil is coming, or the judgment is coming. So God is going to use his prophets, even before the evil comes, to try and warn them beforehand. But let's continue. Hosea 1 verse number 1. Hosea 1 verse number 1. Hosea also is going to do his ministry. Well, who is ruling? Jeroboam. So you see, do you see Uzziah here? Do you see Jeroboam here? This is Jeroboam 2. So we see Hosea and Amos, they're going to do his ministry, they're going to do their ministries, while Uzziah is doing his ministry, is a king, sorry, and Jeroboam 2. Are we together? But now the question you should be asking yourself is, if Uzziah is ruling the southern kingdom, and Jeroboam 2 is ruling the northern kingdom, and Hezekiah is the king of Judah, now the question you should be asking yourself is, while Hezekiah is ruling the kingdom of Judah or southern kingdom, who will be the king that will be ruling in the northern kingdom while Hezekiah is ruling? So I've seen this Jeroboam 2 is ruling the south. So Uzziah is corresponding with who? Jeroboam 2. Now which king in the northern kingdom will be equal to Hezekiah? No. So what you need to do is, you need to go back to history and understand who is the king that was ruling in the northern kingdom while Hezekiah was ruling. And if you go to history, this is King Hoshea. And the thing that we know with King Hoshea, Hoshea was the last king of Israel, or the northern kingdom. So we have the number 4 here. Now the question that you should be asking yourself is, how many kings do we have if from Uzziah to Hezekiah we have 4 kings? How many kings will we be having from Jeroboam 2 to Hoshea? And they're going to have 7 kings. So here we see the number 4. And also we see the number what? So you know Christ uses numbers. So the number 7 can also teach us what? Completeness. Or what? The truth about what? The 7 thunders. So who are these kings that are in between Jeroboam 2 and Hoshea? Hope you'll remember them. So the king that is going to come after Jeroboam 2, I think is Zechariah. Jeroboam 2 is Zechariah. Then after Zechariah, is it Shalom or Menahem? I think it's Shalom. Then after Shalom is Menahem. The third one, just help me to remember, please. Is it Shalom? The third one. I think it's Shalom. I may be wrong the spellings. The number 4, I think is Menahem. Then the number 5, I think is Pekah. Pekah or Pekaniah, I'm not sure. I'm going to confirm. Then the 6th is Pekaniah. Then the 7th is Hoshea. So these are the last 7 kings of Israel. The 7 last kings of the northern kingdom. So in between Jeroboam 2 and Hoshea, we have 7 kings. But we know Christ uses numbers. So now the truth that the number 7 can teach us is about completeness. And I think this completeness, by the time we come to Hoshea, this is the completeness of the destruction of northern Israel. Because Hoshea was the last king of Israel, the northern kingdom. When Israel is going to be taken captive into captivity by the kingdom of Assyria. So you see here that Amos is going to do his ministry in this time period, and Hosea. So these prophets are standing here, and God is saying, for surely God will do nothing except reveal his secrets upon the prophets. These are among the prophets that God is sending to warn Israel of the judgment that's going to come. And we have seen from Jeroboam 2 to Hoshea, these are 7 kings. From Uzziah to Hezekiah, these are the 4 kings. So let's go to the book of Isaiah again to see something. Here. Pekaniah, then Pekah. Thank you. So let's continue to explore who are these prophets that God is going to send before he brings judgment. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter number 1 and verse number 1. The Bible reads, the vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which is so concerning Judah and Jerusalem, in the days of who? Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. So this is Hezekiah. So after Hezekiah, which king comes? Is Manasseh. And we know Manasseh is one of the last 7 kings of Judah. So we see also Isaiah standing here. So these prophets are standing here, and before God brings judgment, God is going to use these prophets. Remember, our question is, who are these prophets at the end of the world? But before we make application, we need to go back to the original intent. And we see Amos, all these prophets are standing here. So one of the truths that these 7 kings are going to teach us is the truth about the 7 thunders. And what do we know about the 7 thunders? What does Ellen White say? If you read 7 BC, 971, paragraph 6, I think, Ellen White is going to tell us that the 7 thunders are a delineation of events that transpired under which angels? The first angel and the second angel. So one of the truths that these 7 kings are going to teach us is the truth about the 7 thunders that transpired under the first angel and the second angel. So this is the Millerite history. So these are the seven kings here. So 7 kings, they're going to teach us the truth about the 7 thunders. So this is the type. This is going to be the antitype. Or the natural story to teach us the spiritual story. But you know the first angel in the Millerite history arrived when? 1798. And the second angel is going to run till when? The close of probation, wherever the close of probation is. So you can see Jeroboam 2 is going to be a symbol of the first thunder. You have 7 thunders. And Hosea is going to be a symbol of the 7th thunder. A symbol of the close of probation. So that means Jeroboam 2 is standing here at the time of the end. So all these prophets are standing here at the time of the end. And what God is saying that, for surely God will do nothing except reveal his secrets upon the prophets. So we know these prophets that are being spoken in this history, these are the Millerites. So the Millerites becomes who? The prophets. In this of the Millerites. But you know, the line of the Millerites is the alpha history of the modern Israel. But we have the omega of the modern Israel. So I'm going to write it up here because I don't have space. Which is the line of the 144,000. But we know our time of the end is 1989. Up to the close of probation. So these prophets are standing where? 1989. So when you're saying that for surely God will do nothing except reveal his secrets upon the prophets are standing here at the end of the world. These are the 144,000. Or this movement. So what the prophets at the end of the world? So that means before God brings judgment at the close of probation, because we know from close of probation to second coming, these are days of the 7 last plagues. Judgment. So before God brings judgment upon his church and the world, God is going to send what? The prophets. And all these prophets, the 144,000 at the end of the world, that God is going to use them to do what? To want the church first and the world before God brings judgment. But now let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter number 28. At what time am I supposed to finish? Who is the timekeeper? 15 minutes more. 15 minutes more. Okay. So let's go to the book of Isaiah. So if you want to learn more truth in the book of Isaiah, and this is the book of Isaiah chapter number 28, what I recommend you is you go to the studies that Elder Paminda did in November of 2018 in Kenya School of the Prophets. He did deeply the book of Isaiah chapter number 28. But I'm going to the book of Isaiah chapter number 28 to pick something about the prophets. But remember, Isaiah is standing here while Uzziah is ruling Judah, not, who is this? Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter number 28. Let's start from verse number 1. I'm going to be jumping. So verse number 1 is going to say, woe unto the crowd of pride, to the drunkards of who? So God is pronouncing a woe upon what? Upon Ephraim. Ephraim is the northern kingdom. So, and it's going to say, whose glorious beauty is as a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. So even as I've said, if you want the deep study of the book of Isaiah chapter number 28, go and watch the sermons of November 2018. There is a study that Elder Paminda is going to do the book of Isaiah chapter number 28. But I've gone to the book of Isaiah chapter number 28. I want to pick up something about the prophets. So even before God is going to use Isaiah to pronounce war against the northern kingdom, and God is going to bring judgment upon the northern kingdom. And if you read verse number 2, God is going to bring a storm. God is going to bring a storm or an overflowing scourge. That's going to bring down Ephraim. And this overflowing scourge, if you go to and do studies, this is the kingdom of Assyria that God used to bring judgment upon Ephraim. So one thing you need to know is so we know Israel was divided into two. Northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So, as you have seen, Hoshea is the last king of northern kingdom. That God is going to send the kingdom of Assyria to bring judgment upon the northern kingdom. But Judah had remained faithful to God. But God had said to Judah, even if you are going to continue sinning, God also is going to bring judgment upon you. So Judah didn't remain faithful. So also God is going to do something. So let's jump to verse number 5. It's going to say, in that day shall the Lord of hosts be for a crown of glory and for a diadem of beauty unto the residue of his people. So while the northern kingdom is going to be destroyed, we have a group of people who are the residue. And I'm making a claim the residue is the kingdom of Judah. But also Judah is going to apostatize. And God is going to bring an overflowing scourge. And you can read that in verse number 18. And this is the kingdom of Babylon. But now let's jump to verse number... Let's jump to verse number 7. But they also have erred through wine. So if you read the book of Isaiah chapter number 28, the crowns of Ephraim have apostatized. But if you come to verse number 7, God is saying they also. So this is the leaders of Judah. So they have done the same apostasy of what? The northern kingdom. And because they have done the same apostasy, God is going to bring judgment. And verse number 18 is going to bring Babylon. But now if you read verse number 7, it's going to say, by they also, I'm saying that these are Judah, the leaders of Judah. They have erred through wine and through strong drink, and they are out of the way. So these leaders, if this is the way, they were following the way, but now they are out of the what? Out of the way. And who are these people that are out of the way? The Bible is going to explain. These are the priests and the prophets. Okay, so these are the priests and the prophets They are out of the way. They've been drunk by wine, with wine. So verse number is going to say, the priest and the prophet have erred through the strong drink, and they have swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. So we have the prophets. The Bible said to each people, priests or prophets. So we have the priests. They are out of the way. And they stumble in what? They err in vision. They err in vision. And they stumble in what? In judgment. So we see how the priest and the prophet are out of the way. And they stumble in vision. And they err in vision and they stumble in judgment. So the judgment that they are coming up with is not righteous before God. So what do prophets see? Prophets do see visions, true? So we see the prophets are connected with the visions. And the priests are connected with what? Judgment. So which methodology are we seeing here? Prophetic chiasm. So the prophets see visions, and the priest presides over judgment. So we see prophetic mirror. So the priests and the prophets have erred. They have stumbled. They have erred in vision and stumbled in judgment. But remember, Isaiah is standing here at the time of the end. So that means the priests have erred in vision and the prophets have stumbled in judgment. The prophets have stumbled in judgment. The prophets. Okay. Have stumbled in judgment. Stumble. Okay. So what God is going to do, because these people have erred or they've made mistake or they have apostatized, what God is going to do is going to replace them. So God has been using the priests and the prophets to warn God's people, but they have erred. So if you go to the book of Isaiah, because they are out of the way, God is going to teach them in another way. And how God is going to teach them in another way is going to bring the king of the north to teach them a lesson. But now if you come at the end of the world, we know Isaiah is standing at the time of the end. So the priests and the prophets, they have apostatized. But now God is going to replace these priests and the prophets to do a job function from the time of the end. So I'm going to make a claim that if Isaiah is standing at the time of the end, spiritual 1798 or 1989, these priests and the prophets are going to be replaced at the time of the end. In our history, the priest, because we know that in 1989, also the line of the priest begins at the time of the end. So I'm making a claim that the priests and the prophets that God has raised in this history is this movement to warn God's people of the judgment that's going to come. So summary. So our main point of study was to try and understand who are these prophets at the end of the world. So you've gone to the book of Amos. You have seen how Amos is standing in his time period. Hosea and Isaiah. So prophetically or symbolically, you have seen these prophets are standing at the time of the end. And you know the time of the end is the beginning of this movement. So in this history from 1989 going forward, the priests and the prophets, I believe with this movement that God started raising in 1989 to warn God's people of the evil that's going to come. But remember, our second question is, after we've identified who are these prophets, the second question we're trying to ask is, what is this job function of the prophets and the priests at the end of the world? Why? So much has been said by Elder Paminda and Elder Tess. That is the line of the priests. 1989, time of the end. 5 major waymark, this 9/11. This 2014. This 2019. And this 2021. So this plowing. This is the early rain. This is the latter rain. And this is the harvest. So this is the line of the priests. So if we bring the line of the Levites, start from 9/11, 2014, 2019, 2021, Sunday law. Nethanims, begins from 2014, 2019, 2021, Sunday law. This is the close of probation. This is their plowing, latter rain, early rain, latter rain, harvest. Plowing, early rain, latter rain, harvest. So in the next class, we'll be trying to prove what is this job function of the prophets and the priests at the end of the world. So we have identified that these prophets are standing at the time of the end, which is this movement. Now the question that we'll be asking is, what is the role of this movement? Why did God raise this movement from the time of the end? So that will be the next question in the next class. Shall we pray? Our dear Father, who art in heaven, Lord, we thank you so much because of this privilege and an opportunity that you have granted unto us as your children, that we may be able to come at thy feet to learn of thee. Thank you for giving us these precious moments that we may be able to attend this camp here in Lira. And this is the time that we need to come to the realization that we have so few time or little time for us to prepare before you go forth and harvest the Levites, because you are not in harmony. And from 1989, as you have shown through the prophetic word, that you have raised this movement from 1989 to do our work. As we'll be answering this question in the next class, we pray that you may help us all to ponder and meditate and understand the role that God has given unto us, the precious role that you need to be used by thee to bring more even unto thy fold. Bless us all even as we take a break, for we pray in faith in Jesus' name.